Hello everyone, welcome back to Alice's Warped Wonderland. So you know, today is a school day, it means only one video. So let's load into this. Looks like we are at the Midnight Tea Party. Chapter 4. Midnight Tea Party. Is it really here? Asked the Cheshire Cat again. It's here, he answered, smiling without a care in the world. This is the park, isn't it? Yes, it is. The city was once again devoid of other people as the Cheshire Cat led me to the location of the tea party. From the confusing conversation I had with him on the way here, all I understood was that two people called the Hatter and the Dormouse were having a tea party here. I was imagining an elegant garden party, but I thought it'd be more like a fancy European garden, not a regular old park with swings and a sandbox. I had been led to a community park not far from my house. When I was young, I used to play here. Even if there are swings, you can still drink tea. Well, that's true. Do you hate swings, Alice? No, I like them. Do you hate sandboxes? No, I don't hate sandboxes either. The Cheshire Cat looked at me and tilted his head. Then what is the problem? I don't have a problem with anything. The Cheshire Cat smiled curiously. I still did say that right. Well, that's okay. It's true you can drink tea anywhere. There's no need for me to be overly critical. I stood in front of the car barricade at the park's entrance and looked ahead. At the end of the park, underneath the wisteria trees, was a table resembling a log sawed in half. There I could see two silhouettes. One was moving incredibly sluggishly, while the other was bustling around rather excessively. I have no knowledge or experience with tea parties, but I do know this. Those movements definitely do not come from drinking regular tea. In fact, one of them doesn't even seem like a person. I closed my eyes and took a few deep breaths. What are you doing, Alice? I'm just getting myself ready. All right, let's go. I head toward the table. White tablecloth covered the log table. On top of it was a silver tray, a silver pot, and a silver-colored set of forks and knives. A white porcelain tea set was arranged on one side, while sandwiches, scones, and cookies decorated the rest of the table. Looks normal so far. In fact, I think it's prepped like a real tea party. But there were two things that made it strange. The first was the clocks. For some reason, the table was covered in so many clocks that they outnumbered the tea sets. The clocks that couldn't fit on the table were lined up at their feet. I don't know much about tea parties, but I don't think there's a rule that says there needs to be a bunch of clocks. And as to the second, it was messy, so unbelievably messy. There were crumbs everywhere, and the cups and plates were covered in cracks. Some forks and knives had fallen on the ground, while others were stabbed into the table. In the middle of the table, a small antique clock was ticking out of a chocolate cake like some kind of weird art piece. It seemed they were enjoying their tea rather unconventionally. I was somewhat impressed by the extravagantly chaotic scene unfolding before me, when suddenly a person who stood on the chair to pour tea screamed at me. You're late, Alice. The mouse was resting his chin on the table with his eyes shut, but he opened his eyes once he heard that voice. The mouse was about the size of a human infant. The man, I think, who screamed seemed younger than me, judging from his voice. Perhaps he was a middle schooler, but I wasn't really sure. He was wearing a giant silk hat that covered his entire head, so I couldn't see his face. Not just the silk hat, everything he was wearing was too big. He looked like a small child wearing adult clothing. I presume this boy in the hat is the Hatter, and the giant mouse is his dormouse. Do you have any idea what time it is? The Hatter yelled angrily. Huh? I looked at the clock scattered across the table. The hands and the faces all pointed to 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock? In the middle of the night? It can't possibly be 3 a.m., can it? I thought it was strange, but since the clock's hands were pointed at 3, I couldn't really argue. Is it 3 o'clock? Do you know how much time has passed since then? The Hatter yelled as he tilted the teapot. Tea began to overflow and spill from the cup. While I watched this happen, I answered, maybe 30 seconds, give or take. Wrong. It's been so long I'm starting to feel faint. But looking at these clocks, it looks like it's just turned 3 o'clock. Well, of course it just turned 3 o'clock. But it's been ages since it's been turned 3 o'clock. Huh? I don't really understand. It sounds like a riddle. Welcome home, our Alice. His eyes still shut, the dormouse clumsily held out a teapot. I started to worry as the teapot shook in his hand. Come, sit some tea. At that moment, the dormouse's chin hit the tabletop. The teapot he was offering suddenly fell over in a dramatic display. Hot water flew everywhere, and the Hatter jumped to his feet. I narrowly managed to avoid getting scalded, only because the Cheshire Cat grabbed me by the back of my collar to avoid the hot water, though it did choke me a bit. The guilty dormouse didn't get sloshed at all and snored quietly on top of the table. So, we're looking for the White Rabbit. Do you know anything about where he is? I asked the Hatter while coughing. Yeah, the rabbit came here. The Hatter replied, bored as he shifted in his seat. He tried to pick up the teacup that was filled to the brim, but it was all for naught as the tea came spilling over the edge. Really? When? I leaned forward. Just now. Quite a while ago. The Hatter and the Dormouse replied in unison. Which is it? Just before it became 3 o'clock. The Hatter seemed to have given up on picking up the teacup. He left it on the table and lapped sips from the cup like a dog. So it just turned 3 o'clock, but it was in quite some time since it turned 3 o'clock. So if the White Rabbit came here just before it turned 3 o'clock, that means he was just here, but quite some time ago? Ugh, this is confusing. And then, do you know which way he went? That way. As he pointed, the Dormouse nodded off. His small front limbs flopped on the table with a thump. The Hatter grabbed his limbs and used them to point off to the side. I looked where he pointed and saw a beautiful gate covered in roses. It was the gate to the rose garden inside the park. The arch at the entrance was covered in white ramber roses. As I recall, the rose garden was established several years ago as part of the city's afforestation plan. I'd never gone inside before. Normally, the gate was locked, only open during the flower blooming season, but right now the gate was wide open. Thank you, both of you. I'm going to go inside. I ran towards the gate to the rose garden. Alice! The Cheshire Cat shouted after me. He sounded unusually tense. Huh? What? Ouch! Before I could turn around, pain filled my right arm. What is this? A rose vine was wrapped around my right arm. It coiled tightly around my arm like a snake. Thorns pierced my flesh. Ow! I watched as my right arm became soaked with blood. Stop, let go. Ignoring me, the rose vine pulled me with its incredible strength. A vine reached for my neck. I tried desperately to avoid it, but the more I struggled, the more the thorns tore my skin. Unable to bear it any longer, I shouted for help. Asked help. Asked the Dormouse for help. Asked the Cheshire Cat for help. The Cheshire Cat. Cheshire Cat, help me! The Cheshire Cat ran over without making so much as a sound. He was so quiet and quick it almost seemed like he had teleported. And with his sharp claws, he quickly scratched his arm. Red blood suddenly began to pour. What? Why did you do that to your arm? For a moment I thought the Cheshire Cat had gone crazy. But then the vine wrapped around my arm began to loosen. A few vines let go of my arm and went for the Cheshire Cat instead. The Cheshire Cat ignored the rose vines that were coiling around him and started peeling off the vines like it still stubbornly clung to me. The pain of my skin being torn made me scream. When I was finally free from the roses, I rolled onto the ground. The roses had lost all interest in me. They had new prey now, the Cheshire Cat, who was being ensnared by the vines faster than I was. Oh, Cheshire Cat! Oh, this could be bad, said the Hatter in an unconcerned tone. Story goes that cats are the rose's favorite food. Personally, I'd rather eat Alice. I'm too scared to touch the Cheshire Cat anyways, the Hatter continued nonchalantly. I need to do something. Reaching towards the tabletop, I quickly picked up the vase. I know everyone thinking pick up the knife, but I don't know if that's going to do anything because I could accidentally hurt him. So, fine, I'm going to go with the knife. Reaching towards the tabletop, I quickly picked up the knife. I'm going to take this too, okay? I said. I grabbed the white quality tea cozy. You can't, the Hatter screamed at me, but I didn't pay attention. Covering my hands with the tea cozy like safety gloves, I grabbed the root of the vine that was attacking the Cheshire Cat. Tried to cut the vine with what was officially a butter knife, but to no avail. A few rose veins started to coil around me again, but I didn't mind. Frantically, I started sawing the vines with the knife and began cutting them down one by one. The rose vines fell to the ground, withering. Where the vines had been cut, a thick red liquid poured out. Blood? A shiver went down my spine. The formerly gray Cheshire Cat now had a red and gray molted coat. You really are an idiot, Alice. White roses drink blood. Everyone knows that, Alice. It's just common sense. White roses drink blood and turn red. Dormouse muttered sleepily. I turned around and saw that the white roses had turned light pink. Blood turns the roses red. Is this the first I've heard of it? But I couldn't bring myself to argue. I'm sorry, Cheshire Cat. Alice, it's not good for you to cry for me. The Cheshire Cat flashed his usual thin smile. That's right, stupid Alice. You disrupted the natural order of things. Hatter shouted incomparably as he shook the tea in his cup. Your injuries, I need to tend to them. As I said that, I began to shake. That was scary. If I lost the Cheshire Cat, I wouldn't have any other allies. And then At that moment, the Cheshire Cat suddenly grabbed my wrist with his bloodied hand. What? I felt my wrist get hot in his tight grip. Hey. I tried to ask what's wrong, but instead I swallowed my breath. For just a moment, the Cheshire Cat's face looked like it had warped. Huh? I rubbed my eyes. Is something wrong, Alice? The Cheshire Cat asked, and he let go of my hand. I stared at the Cheshire Cat as if I were trying to burn a hole through him. There's no sign that anything changed. No, it's nothing. It must have been my imagination. I finally noticed that I had stopped shivering. Still, I am upset. However, it's okay now. Hey Hatter, do you have any bandages? Of course not. Do you need bandages at a tea party? Use your brain. Well, I guess that makes sense. Then can I have that napkin? You can have it. Our Alice. Dormouse offered the napkin from the table sitting next to him. No, napkins are a must for a tea party. But before the Hatter could intervene, the napkin was in my hands. Cheshire Cat, let's go clean your hands. That won't be necessary. After he said that, the Cheshire Cat began licking the red stains on his robes. Oh, right. He's a cat. Wait here. I ran over to the park's water fountain and began to wash the blood off my arms. The cuts were painful, but they looked worse than they really were. If I leave them alone, they'll stop bleeding. So I soaked the napkin in water and wrung it out, then I returned to the Cheshire Cat. I wiped the parts that I thought the Cheshire Cat would have trouble reaching. You should lick them too, Alice. I don't lick wounds. I'm not a cat. Cat blood is delicious. Said I'm not going to lick them. Stop being a creep. The Cheshire Cat seemed like he wanted to lick my wounds too, but I politely declined. Alice. Still sleeping, the dormouse handed something to me. It was a bandage made from a torn napkin. I thought I saw the Hatter muttering to himself as he made something to the dormouse's specification. It seems he was making a bandage. For me? Thank you. I pet the dormouse's head. He contorted his body in pleasure. I'm the one who made it. The Hatter slapped away my hand. Okay. Thank you too, Hatter. I poked his silk hat, but the Hatter just finally turned his head away. As the Cheshire Cat wrapped the bandage around me, I asked the Hatter, how do I go through that gate anyway? Why, you can just waltz through it while the roses are sleeping, duh. The Hatter responded rudely. He didn't seem pleased by how kind the dormouse had been to me. The two seemed to have a weird power dynamic in their relationship. Sleep? Roses sleep? When? They'll go to sleep at 4 o'clock, because roses are early to bed, early to rise. 4 o'clock? I looked at the clock scattered around the disheveled table. The hands all pointed to 4 o'clock. They hadn't moved at all. Well, it's always 3 o'clock here, right? When do they sleep? I said they'll go to sleep at 4 o'clock, didn't I? Yes, so when will it be 3 o'clock? When the clock hands move, of course. Okay, a clock just needs to say 4 o'clock, right? I picked up one of the clocks from the table. I twisted the screw that moves the hands. Huh. The screw was stuck and wouldn't budge. Ugh. What are you doing? You're such a stupid girl, Alice. Only small time can move the hands of the clock. That's just common sense. The Hatter seemed offended by my idiocy. Who's small time? You don't even know small time? Ugh, unbelievable. What ignorance. Annoyed, I puffed up my cheeks. Well, excuse me. What would you call common sense isn't common sense to me at all. I know what time is. Don't like how you're chummy with him. Well, then can we have this small time person move the hands of the clock for us? Aren't you guys tired of this tea party by now? The Hatter suddenly fell silent. He's been captured. The dormouse muttered tiredly, his eyes still shut. Though he was sleeping, he was still able to hear our conversation. Captured? By who? By Her Majesty the Queen, of course. Her Majesty the Queen? There's a queen, too. Small Time doesn't have a body, which means he doesn't have a head either. That's why he's been captured. Huh? I don't understand what the Hatter is saying anymore. The Queen hates anything that's headless. The Cheshire Cat explained vaguely. I didn't understand it all, but if I just accepted that story of his, how it went like this. The queen hates anything that's headless. Tiny Time doesn't have a head, so the queen got mad and imprisoned him. I thought about it for a little bit. If that's the case, she wouldn't imprison us, right? Because we have heads. If we went and asked her, would she agree to let us see him? I'm no one special. Of course she'll let you visit him. You're Alice, after all. Really? I guess being Alice has some perks. Well, then I'm going to ask the queen to free Small Time. How do I get to her? And how do I see the queen? Go through the pipe and across the ocean. Holding a cookie in his hand, the Hatter pointed to the pipe in question. Pipe? On the other side of the sandbox, I saw 2 cement pipes lined up next to each other. They weren't real pipes, just playground equipment designed to resemble pipes. The pipe. If I go through a pipe, I'll just come out the other side and be back in the park. Ugh, you're so annoying, Alice. You complain too much. If you keep complaining, I'm going to put you between 2 slices of bread and eat you like a sandwich. But I lowered my head. Well, let's go then. I didn't want to become a sandwich. I faced the pipes and started walking when suddenly I heard a scream. I looked and saw that the dormouse had stabbed the Hatter's hand with a fork. Ouch! I told you the cake is over here. The red pipe, the entrance, our Alice. Dormouse smothered, then raised his fork to bring the Hatter's hand to his mouth. Ow, 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 hey, don't eat me. That's my hand. The cake is here. Let's go, Cheshire Cat. We left the bustling tea party and headed towards the pipes. There were 2 types, one red, one blue. They looked like normal pipes. I peered into each one. Both were just under 10 feet long. I could see through each of them to the other side. I looked and saw the word exit carved on one side of each pipe. On the other side, the word entrance was carved in. I think the kids who played in these pipes should decide for themselves which sides to enter and exit from. Well, there's no use just standing here, even if it's a trick. Let's go. Both pipes were just big enough for me to crawl through. It didn't look like I needed to worry about getting stuck. And with that, guys, I'm going to stop. Next time, we'll just choose which pipe we're going to go through. So please leave a like if you like, comment if you wish, and so for more, save the show. I'm not continuing on without you. And with that, and